Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. Thank you for being here today. If you will, like, share, comment on the post, and then you can look with me in Ephesians chapter 5, beginning in verse 25. And we are going to solve the problems of the world today. Now, we are going to address one of the big issues in the home that many books have been written, a lot of pages, a lot of ink have been um, utilized in doing something that really the Bible takes care of in just a few words. Beginning in verse 25, it says, "Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church, because we are members of his body." Again, a lot of books and ink and telecast and conferences and counseling have been utilized in basically trying to get folks to understand exactly what this passage says about the role of the husband, the responsibility of the husband in the home. And this has even been, in my opinion, been fueled in many ways by errant preaching and church teaching, that many men believe that somehow that they take the statement head of the home and it goes to their head. It doesn't mean that that the husband is to be the dictator, bossing and firing out orders to everybody, but what it means is described for us in this passage. What leadership, what being the head of the home biblically means is that we are the responsible authority. The husband is responsible for leading his family, for growing his family. Just as it says here, as Christ loved the church, and don't have time, but take just a few pieces of this. As Christ loved the church. Well, how did Christ love the church? That he gave himself for her, that he died for her. That the husband elevates and places his wife on that kind of pedestal. Why? Christ did it that he might sanctify her, to make her more holy. And a real simple question that most husbands, or no, excuse me, all husbands should be answering is this, and you can sum everything else about the role of the husband, the job of the husband, the responsibility, whatever you want to call it, in that statement. Are you, as the husband, as the man in your home, making, helping your wife become more godly? And that's what it means when it says to sanctify, making her more like Christ. As a husband, as a father in our home, are we helping our spouse, our children, our family become more godly, to become more like Christ? That's it in a nutshell. However, whatever else however else you want to break it down, and you can, there's books that talk about communication. Dr. Chapman up in Winston-Salem has written Five Love Languages. Many of you have probably read that, and how how your spouse experiences love. All those things are very valuable. Dr. Chapman's a brilliant man, good godly man, and there's some very good books on how to communicate and how to treat and all these other things. But when it boils down to the very bottom layer of it, or the top layer, depending on how when you get right down to it, the question is how I'm treating my wife, causing her to love God more. Is how I'm talking to my wife, causing her to love God more? And you can see how that question is easily applied to everything. If you're out having an affair, is that going to cause your wife to love God more? If you're being cruel to your children, is that going to cause them to love God more? Is that going to cause your wife to love God more? If you're not working and providing for your family, is that going to cause them to love God more? Is that going to make them more godly? That question, how we answer that question to the situations in our life will help us determine how, whether we're being the husband, the father that God, the man that God has determined, designed for us to be. Am I, my family, becoming more godly, becoming more like God if by my actions? If I take this fishing trip on Sunday instead of taking my family to church, if I go play golf today instead of, going to my kid's ball game or something, all those questions, we just ask ourselves that question over and over in every circumstance. Am I helping my family, my wife, my children become more godly? Am I helping them to fall in love with God more? Am I causing them to love Him more? Am I causing my children to want to be believers? That question, painful as it is, will cause you to grow as a believer and cause your family to grow in their faith. Think about it. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.